since the last time I was out, I added 50 weight oil to the shocks. It seems to be helping quite a bit. Also, testing out those Traxxas links, it did give it more ground clearance on the driver's side in the rear, but it didn't take anything away on the passenger side because I used a higher link mount position, and instead of having a curved link, it's just got a straight one. That I'm not sure whether it's Axial or Traxxas, but it's better than the soft, thin ones that Red Cat puts on their stuff that seem to bend and break very easily. So I'm out doing a little rock test. If you drive your trucks on sand or dirt or trails like that, you'll never break them. You're not putting any stress on it. But when you're out here and you're driving in areas that can capture a tire, particularly on both the top and bottom of the wheel at the same time, that's when you'll break stuff. So these people that say, oh, I've driven my truck for years and never broke a single thing, sure, I believe you. You probably don't take it anywhere that would really stress it much. The fact is, this is where this truck was built. It's made to drive on terrain just like this, where it's going to be stressed. It's going to have wheels get captured. It's going to want to bind. And if you can't build past some of that, it's just going to break every time you take it out. So anybody who wants to come show me how to drive, please do. I always love having people go crawling with me. It's fun. And I'm not trying to say that to sound egotistical, but when people say, oh, you know, how are you driving it? I drive it just fine. Not overstressing anything. When you're out here, especially if your motor is an FOC motor, which basically has a cruise control for RPM, and the Firma 201 and the Hobbywing Pro, those both have the 2-in-1 feature, and I run the 2300s because I just think the 1800 is, why bother? It's exactly like this motor when you drive it, except for slower. So I'd rather spend the extra money for something I'm probably going to have for years and have what I actually want. But when you're driving with an FOC motor in a place where you can capture a tire, I recommend two things. First of all, if the progress of your truck stops, you have a general idea of how fast it's supposed to crawl. If all of a sudden its progress stops for more than really a half second and you don't see anything else happening, it's probably good to figure out why. And I'd start looking at tires, make sure they're all rotating. If they're not rotating, if you got one that doesn't want to rotate, it's bound. And an FOC motor has enough torque that especially on 3S, it'll break stuff. I've seen people lately breaking axle shafts off and sub shafts. The other thing I've seen break is the output shaft of the motor, because that's the first place in the driveline that delivers torque, and those can break. So you got to watch out for that. I don't know what else to say about that, but if somebody wants to come out here and come wheeling with me, please do. I like having company, and this is a cool place. I'm on the edge of tipping this over, so I'm not sure how I'm going to get out of it. I think I can gun it and get out of it, but I didn't want to do that. Maybe I can do this. Maybe not. Sometimes the best way to do it is just gun it. Another thing, if you're on terrain like this and you don't know if it's something the truck can just drive over, use the sidewalls of your tire. If you can push them up against something to make them hook on a rock, hook over a rock, or use a ledge to make a turn tighter, that's pretty great. You can do that too. I'm getting into a spot here that's a little tough ride. I'm not really sure if I'll make it through this. I will probably make it over this obstacle, but the next one is the hard one. Right on the tipping point. See, I'm kind of driving this into a box canyon where you got to make a pretty harsh turn to get out or climb over the rock in front of you. I'm going to try to go over it today. And if you're coming up on an obstacle that is higher than the bumper, come at it a little sideways and use the sidewall of the tire. But if your truck stops its motion, get out of the throttle. Also, if you're not running a slipper clutch and you're going to drive in an area like this, I highly recommend that you do. It is there to keep your truck from braking. I don't know how this is going to do it, but see if we can't just make our way over it. I gotta watch out here because I can bind the rear bumper, and the right rear has a rock above the tire and below the tire. So I'm going to use short, shallow bumps. That way I don't let that FOC build torque and snap this thing off. Really need to get the front end of this up completely with both tires. And it's not one to do that because you've got a rock back there that's keeping the rear end from swinging. I'll take the opposite approach. I'm just going to try to drive around this one if it'll let me. Is that cheating? Probably. But it made it. I didn't break anything. That's the other way to make sure you don't break your truck, is to know when to say no. So if there's something you know you shouldn't do, don't keep doing it. Maybe try it once or twice, but after that, go ahead and figure out something different. Right now I've got weeds wrapped around my back axle. You can see it chewing them up. There we go. Got it free. And now I've turtled it. Sort of. One of those obstacles you can use torque to get out of, get the thing rocking. And I'm taking harder lines intentionally here that will frame the truck out just because I can. Wasn't quite what I wanted, but it'll do. And really, if you've got 3 wheels on the ground, you can drive. 1 wheel in the air is not a problem, so long as you're not exceeding the tipping point. And right here, I'll show you what I run. On the front there, I've got that skid plate that acts like the front of an airboat. And if it needs to, I can ride on that and kind of use it as a center wheel in a way. that basically will ramp itself up over obstacles so that I don't hit the front of the differential and stop my truck. If you hit something flat with the front of your truck, a flat part of the front of the truck, it's just going to stop. Just chugging a little bit there so I know that it's working the FOC. Had a mild bind going there. Wasn't too worried about it. As long as there's progress, you're probably going to be okay. And again, if the truck stops moving, I'm not too concerned unless the wheels stop moving. If they stop spinning and the truck's not moving, that's a bind situation. And try not to fall over here on these rocks. If you come here, there is a risk of turning an ankle. I guarantee my balance is better for having driven here for since 2020. I found this spot during what they called the pandemic. So actually I found this spot because I got kicked out of a place that I was driving this when I had it brand new. And if you don't know where to go, suppose you live somewhere flat like Iowa, like I do, and you don't know where to go, what I did was I went on Google Earth and I looked for places where water flows. And anywhere water flows, especially if it flows over rock, it will cut really great paths for crawlers. And my favorite thing to do is to go somewhere where water has cut sandstone or some type of rock that is high grip, because it is just the neatest terrain to drive in. It's high grip and it usually makes really nice terrain and obstacles. So that's fun for me. I enjoy that. But if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful at all for keeping your truck from damage, give it a thumbs up if you would. If you don't, it's fine too. I'm not doing this for money. My channel does not make money for me. I've not monetized it. I just do it to help the RC community. So if you enjoyed it, great. Share it if you think it helps. But these are just a few of the things that I learned that helped me keep my truck from breaking when I first got it. When I first came out here on this type of terrain, I broke this thing almost daily. It didn't break for about a month, and after that I could not keep it from breaking. So this is where I built this truck, and I built it so that I could drive it in terrain like this and not have it get broken. So it's also my Class 2 truck that I compete with, and I'll just do a quick look underneath just to make sure nothing got bent, because that was the whole point of coming out here. This one used to get bent and this used to get bent. This is intentionally bent. I made sure that the length from here to here was the same as stock, so it wouldn't change the pinion angle. And these are still stock, but they don't take the same amount of force that the rear ones do, because they're just pulling, where this one can push against the bind, you know, push from the back axle forward. All this can do is pull, and it doesn't really put a lot of strain on these, but these back ones really do. Another thing I did with the Red Cat frame is I got my Dremel and I kind of rounded this out a little bit. It had a lot more material than it needed, and by removing some, it sort of high clearanced it. And I was noticing it today. It does have better clearance. This link here is super high clearance now. This one is straight. It's a, like I said, it might be an axial link, because I ordered some Traxxas ones. This is a Traxxas link. This is most likely axial. It was the right length. I don't know what it's from, but this one is mounted on the lower mount for the links on the axle. And this one's mounted on the high links, and it gives exactly the same ground clearance that the stock links gave that are bent, that where the high clearance links. So I'm happy with that. Super solid. None of these have bent the plastic, and I'm going to call that a successful day. Also, remove any trash you find from your crawler spots. Just being a good neighbor. We'll talk to you later. Have a great weekend, everyone.